Well, here we go again. Welcome everybody to the weekend. This is our weekly rundown where I'm going to give you the top 5 news stories going on, plus my 3 favorite social posts. And I'm going to add a little extra fun now since everybody now knows I'm a dad and all that fun stuff. 3 stupid dad jokes. And sorry, I'm looking at 2 different screens here because I've got Instagram up on one. What's up there, Will? How you doing? But again, if you actually want to see the visuals I'll be putting up, that's going to be on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. Unfortunately, Instagram, when you try to do Ecamm Live, because of just how the camera is shot, it looks really, really stupid. So anyhow, let's get right into it because I've got some wonderful news stories I want to share with you this week. And the big ones, let's start with, are going to be like the 5 commercial real estate trends that are emerging for 2024. Then there's this new technology that is coming to your home. This is based on the Consumer Electronics Show going on right now. It's pretty cool stuff. Also, let's watch out for layoffs. There's been some bad news recently, and don't want anybody having to be negatively impacted by that. Then something that I'm going to be bragging about very shortly is the top 10 cities to rent. I'm very excited by that. A hint, one of them is my hometown. And then Will Smith educates us on affordable housing, or so we may think. But the first part that I want to get into is I always like to start with a LinkedIn poll question. And again, since some of you on Instagram cannot see the screen, the real question that I have is, do you know why the 401k was originally created? And shockingly, I've gotten some good responses back online from people that have even said why they originally were created. And it's just like the original baseline was the 401k was created actually in the 1970s, late 70s, and it is a vehicle for the rich. So to give you an idea, the tax rate, the highest tax rate on the rich at that point in time was 70%. And you were allowed to tuck away when this 401k was created about $45,000, $50,000. The average salary at that point in time in the late 70s, early 80s was $15,000. So if you were allowed to tuck away 3x the average salary, who do you think that was actually created for? Certainly the rich. And that's because they knew the tax rates would eventually come down. So the more money they socked away into that 401k that day, they avoided the 70% and eventually reduced down their taxable amount. That's why it was originally created. It was then repivoted, reformulated. Now there's caps on how much you can put into the 401k at a much lesser amount. Companies adopted it as their methodology for being able to reduce down their actual cost because they were originally offering private pension plans. So there's a way now that for employers to actually save money. That's why the 401k was originally created. A lot of us don't know that. And a lot of us have just been inundated with the exact same thing over and over again of you have to do a 401k. The 401k is the smartest retirement vehicle. Sadly, that is not actually the fact. I know I personally, thank you, because I'm still a little youthful, I wasn't invested in 2001. Had some exposure in 08, and then in 2022, I definitely saw about a 40% drop in my 401k from the company I used to work with. So that doesn't sound like a great retirement plan if I run the risk of losing 40% of everything I've planned for. But anyhow, that's the poll question. I'd love to get your guys' opinion on whether you actually knew that, didn't know that, or you kind of knew that. But let's now move on to a quick look at the markets year to date. Hey, green means good. So as you can see, there is some green. Is it a full percent? No, not yet. We're 12 days in. But green is a directionally good thing, and maybe we are, in fact, going to accomplish a soft landing, which would be really, really wonderful. Keep in mind the 30-year mortgage, because that's up. That's actually marked as red on here. But, sitting at 6.6%. Hopefully that comes down a little bit. Actually, it's 6.66%. Uh-oh, it's the devil. But anyhow, that is your update on the markets. So now let's shift into the 5 stories. And again, the first of the 5 stories was talking about the 5 commercial real estate trends. And in the picture, you can kind of see there's actually a pretty cool concept. But there's a lot of ideas being kicked around right now. And lots of office buildings are changing in this post-pandemic world. And wellness has definitely become a buzzword in the commercial space. And so an architecture design and planning firm offered up their predictions for what they imagine the trends would be for 2024. And here's just some of the trends. Again, this is in my article that I post on a weekly basis, and it's also in my weekly newsletter. But here's some of the things. One, master plans are going to be aiming for to preserve the history. So if you live in a historic place like Boston, there's a lot of historic houses, buildings, structures, etc. So it's not necessarily adjusting the outer shell, but making it work within those four walls. Sustainable life sciences are actually going to head to the city. There's a lot of commercial space now opening up in the urban center of a lot of cities around the United States, and sustainable sciences, they seem to still be a highly profitable industry, so they can actually move into that spot. Tying to that, you've got some vacant offices that are going to be in need of some retrofitting. You guys ever heard of that company WeWork? Well, yeah, WeWork recent bankruptcy is another reflection of the ailments facing the office sector. And a lot of these places could now be converted, and we've talked about this in the past, they could be converted to, hey, affordable housing for residential. Is that an easy turnkey solution? No. But there are solutions in place to repurpose maybe these now vacant assets. You've also got conversations about turnkey labs, and that's just tying again to the life sciences. They're expanding their commercial footprint to advance their research and development, or R&D, and they thus need greater flexibility with their spaces. So that's another thing that could be emerging. And then I already touched on the wellness part, but wellness-focused workspaces, a cafe for your employees, an outdoor area for them to relax during the day, even maybe a bar, you name it, comfortable lounging spaces for them to work. Because again, the focus is trying to get employees back into the office. So you have to make it desirable to want to be there versus just a little cubicle that's 4x4. So that's the first story that I found rather interesting of the 5 commercial trends. And the next one I want to get into is the hidden technology, or the new technology coming to your home. And many of us love following the Consumer Electronics Show. And that is every single year around this time. And there was a really good article out there that laid out some emerging things. What's up, Artie? How are you, man? There's some emerging things out there. And here's a few of them that I actually like. Now, you can see in the picture, again, if you're on Instagram, you don't get it. But you can see in the picture, there is a transparent TV. That thing at the end of the bed there that looks like a white tree. Yeah, that's a transparent TV. That's pretty damn cool. You also have like smart mirrors, countertops that can actually charge your phone, AI-powered fridge as your chef. And like my wife, who's celiac, could even benefit from this because it will actually look at the foods and suggest like a gluten-friendly recipe based on the foods that you have in your fridge. Like that's pretty cool. What's up, Charlie? How are you doing? And so like that's kind of cool. You even have pop-up movie theater projectors. You have 2-in-1 washers. So like if you're living in an apartment building, instead of having the one on top of the other, there's actually now 2-in-1 washers. But I still love the transparent TV that again is shown on my Ecamm Live, but not showing on Instagram. I just love it. So would love to understand which people think would be the coolest new technology to come out of CES for your actual home. So let's get into job fairs, right? Or layoffs. That's always a sad story when we have to talk about layoffs. But Google, along with Amazon and several other US companies, have already announced layoffs effective this year. And why? Well, they have to reduce costs. 2, the robots are taking our jobs. Artificial intelligence is really emerging, especially at these tech companies. And so, Amazon plans to cut hundreds of jobs from its Twitch streaming service, Prime Video, MGM Studios. Google was all over the place. But I mean, even just last year, Google eliminated 12,000 jobs. Amazon eliminated 25,000 jobs. And that's only going to continue to happen, not just at these major companies, but at the smaller ones too, because 1, AI, and 2, there's too much hiring almost that went on during COVID. And so now they're kind of trimming the fat, as they always say. So again, sorry if you're one of those people that have been put in those layoffs, but there is actually a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's ways you can create other streams of income. So let's get into now. This is my favorite news story because it shows the top 10 cities to rent. And for those that know me, I am originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised, baby. And then I've moved out to Boston well over a decade now. But when you notice in the Rent Cafe report, and then Zillow actually had another one, um, Cincinnati, Ohio is ranked number 3. Atlanta still takes the top spot, and there's plenty of reason for Atlanta. I mean, they've got a lot of jobs in that space. You've got a growing population, etc. Kansas City took the 2 spot, and people that know me, I've got a few properties in Kansas City on the multifamily front, and we definitely love that market. It's 6% lower than the national average on a cost of living, but there's plenty of job opportunities popping up there from major corporations. But then, yeah, Cincinnati, gotta love it. Mel, my wife, is probably so angry at me as I brag about Cincinnati some more. But since he's done a great job, you still are home to major corporations like Procter and Gamble, Kroger, etc. They've really transformed their riverfront. They've got more job opportunities coming from employees that used to work at those larger corporations that have now started up their smaller businesses. And they have a major commitment towards sustainability. Not to mention, they've got Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, he slaps, man. So he's the reason I believe why Cincinnati is an emerging thing. And it's so beautiful that it's Cincinnati and Kansas City competing for one of the top spots. Sounds like the NFL. If Joe Burrow wasn't injured, then it would be another great matchup in the playoffs this year. But you know what? We'll just save Chiefs Bengals for another day. But if you are a real estate investor, you're definitely going to want to check out the top 10 cities for multifamily because you want to be in those markets because there is already a shift. There has been a shift in the multifamily space, and it continues to be a shift. But this is one of the markets you want to be in if you actually want to make money in real estate investing. So let me get into now this guy, Will Smith. And I'm not going to sing Getting Jiggy With It or Miami or anything like that, even though I did write about that in my newsletter. Nobody wants to hear me sing. But what I wanted to talk about is Miami and affordable housing. And why is that important? Well, affordable housing is the way the world is going to be working in the future, just because everybody needs a place to live and everybody deserves a place to live. But with the interest rates being where they're at, cost of construction continuing to climb, there needs to be ways that local governments and federal governments are able to get together and create a more effective route for providing new construction for affordable housing. And Bell Harbor Shops, which is a luxury area, they have plans in place that calls for about a 20-story hotel plus 3 residential towers. And within those 3 residential towers, 240 workforce housing units. It's part of the Live Local Act in Florida, which encourages affordable housing developments and tax incentives and relaxed zoning regulations. So that's why it's a win for somebody on the real estate front, because you're actually able to serve others and you're actually able to get more laxer rules, which is a really nice benefit. I will personally tell you I'm looking at that in other markets as well, not in Miami, but it is a way to actually serve the community, create affordable housing, while also not losing money on the real estate investment. So those were my top 5 there. Let me know which ones you thought were the most relevant. But now I want to get into some fun things I found more recently on social media. I have to laugh about this one. Oscar Mayer wieners. It's I remember seeing those cars when I was a kid, and now Oscar Mayer is offering drivers $35,000 a year to travel across the U.S. in a giant hot dog. In the giant hot dog, again, you can't see it on Instagram. It's on my other Ecamm Lives. It's a 27-foot long Wienermobile across the United States. Now, the person gets a $35,000 base. They get $150 for meals a week and all that stuff. But, hell, I don't know if I'd want to do this right after college. That could seem like a kind of fun job, just cruising around in that thing. But I love that they're broadly advertising it to hire more people. On a more serious note, though, I was playing around on Twitter because, hey, who doesn't like playing around on X, sorry, not Twitter. And I was looking at the historic video of Gage Sherpa, who was taking a private client up to Mount Everest, and he noticed somebody that was dying a quarter mile away. And so instead of getting his client up to the summit, he did the right thing and ran over, saved that person, wrapped them in a sleeping mattress, gave them oxygen. Not just that, then carried this person on his back for like 6 hours down a mountain to safety. Like, that's just absurd. With how selfish our world is, especially when you're trying to climb Mount Everest, to get so close to the top and then think for someone else, not for your own selfish tendencies, and then not just do that, but then carry them. Like, you need to have incredible strength. It's phenomenal. And so, like, that is just all the things that are good about this world. And unfortunately, we just don't see that as much in this world. So I wanted to highlight a positive news story. Is a historical thing. So it's not like a recent event, but something as we think about, being better in the world for more people. Now, this one I wanted to share is tied to the 8 lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there's a lot out there, but from the image I put up, you're just seeing how, like, a lot of people that are not as wealthy actually like to spend a ton of money on various watches, clothing, shoes, sunglasses, etc. The accessory type items, whereas other people are just, the wealthy people. I think Zuckerberg just wears jeans and a t-shirt. So, like, you don't actually have to be wealthy by wearing wealthy items. But let me share the 8 lessons that were kind of pulled from this. One, you need financial education. There's no question about it. Financial education will be the major unlock for you when trying to create generational wealth, not just for yourself, but for your family members. You need to change your perspective on money spending. So the rich really focus on needs first, then investments, then wants. The poor people tend to actually focus on their wants, then their needs, then their investments. And so you have to reprioritize and have a better perspective as how the money should be flowing. Next thing is, we've all been dealt sometimes cards that we would deem unfair. And you have to just take ownership on that. If you own your life, then you can own your situations. Even if it's not your fault that you got in that situation, it is your responsibility to try and find your way out of it. Nobody's here to save you. Only you can save yourself. The next one, and this just goes back to like college, but understand basic accounting. What is a true asset? What's a true liability? If you're buying a single family home for yourself, just remember that's actually a liability unless it is somehow cash flowing for you. And that's if, like, you house hacked it and you're Airbnb out a portion of it, so that's covering your mortgage. Well, then that's now an asset. But keep in mind, if you are actually just paying a monthly mortgage and then you're paying property taxes, if you stop paying that, you better bet that house is going away. So definitely keep that in mind. Understand your tax code. Tom Wheelwright has a great book about this where he talks about 95% of the tax code is actually written to the benefit of people. Only 5% is actually, the taxes. So understand the tax code, how it can actually benefit you if you properly structure things. Recognize also that you can have a side hustle, and that's not necessarily your profession. So, the side hustle here can be something like investing passively in real estate. That's what I originally started with while I was still working my corporate job. So figure out ways that you can generate additional income while still working your profession. And then after a certain time, you then, by all means, break away, do your own thing. Another one is appreciate your mind. Your knowledge, knowledge is the key to the primary currency now in today's world. So the more knowledge you have, the better you are, or the more likely you are to succeed. And that includes things like how to leverage money, find opportunities, and hire the right people to do the additional work that you just don't have the bandwidth to do. And finally, be a generalist over a specialist. Generalists, have enough knowledge to be dangerous. Sorry, I have to shift this because I know I'm getting a halo effect here. So I'm going to shift this over here. Sorry, guys. Quick pause, moving around. But yeah, be a generalist over a specialist, just because that will make your life so much easier. You'll be armed with enough knowledge to be able to serve a vast array of people. All right, so those were my top 3 social posts. I want to move now into, of course, my weekly blog, because who doesn't love reading that? And hey, it's January 12th, but New Year's was only 12 days away. And what I went into on last week's blog was New Year's resolutions. We all make New Year's resolutions, right? And really, let's look at first why, or what are the common motivations behind the tradition of creating a New Year's resolution? Well, one, it's a symbolic fresh start for us. The turn of the calendar year symbolizes this is a new year, a new me. So that's a lot of the reasons. Two, you're reflecting on the past. We try to celebrate our prior year before we shift into or convert or move into this next phase. So it's also a reflection on the past as we move towards the future. That those two I kind of see tying together. Goal setting. Every single person is told like, hey, set some goals, and that's exactly what this is. Um, so the new year often inspires your ability to set personal and professional goals for some growth and development. Um, Culturally, it's just a tradition. How many times do people just ask you like, "Hey, what's your New Year's resolution?" So that's just another thing. Like we're told that culturally, like we're peer pressured into our social influence. Like we would seem like the redheaded stepchild if we did not actually set goals for ourselves. And then it also just creates some hope for a positive change. Like positivity is a good thing. And by putting some resolutions in place, because a lot of us recognize that we have flaws. And so we want to be able to break those bad habits. And this gives us a way to think more positively about that. And then it's just time frame. Again, the calendar year switch, that's a lot of the reasons as to why we like to set goals. Again, I support anybody trying to set goals. I think it's very worthwhile. But you might get sad when you see this chart that I'm going to put up here. And so try not to cry when you look at that chart. But the fact is that only 1% of us actually make it the full 12 months on our resolutions. In fact, a lot of people probably have already lost just in the first month here. Even on January 12th or whenever you actually watch this, I'd be curious to see if you have actually accomplished your goals. The majority of us are fizzling out after 3 to 4 months. That's a fact. And last year I covered how you can stick to your New Year's resolutions. So I'm not going to get into that, but you can definitely look up my old blogs on that. I'm not going to go over that again. But I do want to give some ideas on ways that we could actually not be in that majority sitting in the 3 to 4 months that you can see there. Again, if you're on Instagram, you can't see this, but it's on my YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So here are the ideas that I can kind of throw out there, and I tried to throw in some pro tips because, of course, I'm a pro, right? No, but at least my personal things that I have tried to do in hopes that it can spark some ideas for yourself. So the first is health and fitness. If a lot of people set goals for health and fitness, and I actually put out a poll a few weeks back of asking people what their goals were. A lot of people did say like lose weight, get healthier, etc. So if we said health and fitness, then well, one, let's exercise regularly. Let's start a workout routine. Let's join a fitness class, whatever that might be. My personal thing, I would say get a Peloton. Yeah, the company is exploding right now. Imploding, not exploding, imploding. But their bike and their workout classes, I mean, those are great. And it can all be done from the comfort of your home. So I would highly recommend that because now it's so easier or so much easier just to get a workout in because it's right there in your house versus just that additional restriction of, okay, I've got to get dressed, get in my car, go to the gym, work out, come back, do the exact same thing. You're thinking like, I don't have 2 hours to work out, but with a Peloton in your home, now you only need 45 minutes, an hour. They really just say 30 minutes a day. I personally like to try and do an hour a day because I believe a healthy body can help you fight through anything else. The next part is mental well-being. Practicing mindful meditation, everything like that. For those that know me, I guess I'm going on like year 5 now, probably of meditation in a row. So every single morning I try to meditate. Every single evening I try to meditate. You can get things like Headspace. I think it's like $70 a year for an annual membership. There's a new group that I am trying out in addition to having my Headspace. It's called Superior Mind. I think it's a really cool concept. You can try it out. I don't know if they charge anything yet because they're still growing as a company. But you really want to prioritize your self-care and stress management. It helps you develop a more positive mindset because, again, there's a lot of going to be scary things that occur to you in your life. And having at least the glass half full approach will help you get through those situations a lot easier. It's still going to be hard, but it's going to be easier. Then you've got things like learning and growth. So like I always think about, I try to read for 25 minutes a day. And with a baby running around, physically sitting down and reading a book may not be feasible anymore. So I try to do a lot of books on tape. If you have Audible, that's one thing. You could do Spotify. They've got their own books now. Scribed is another great one out there. I think Scribed is like $80 a year. Um, but it's a good way to at least auditorially hear the books and wisdom coming out. Now, would it still be more effective probably to read and highlight, be able to go back over those notes? 100%. But recognizing that you're traveling into work, following a kid around, going to soccer games, whatever it might be, this at least gives you a chance to continue to learn and develop it. Financial stability is another idea for people that we're kicking around. And yes, you want to create a budget. You want to save money. You want to reduce debt. All those things. You want to manage your expenses. I always say like YOLOing, and I definitely lived like that a decade ago where, yeah, you only live once, right? And I don't even know if people still use YOLO. But stop putting it all on red when you go to the casino. Stop having $1,000 bar bill or things like that. Invest in your personal finance education. And guess what? Pro tip on this one. I know a guy that can help you there. He might be talking to you right now. But I'm certainly happy to help you. Even if it's just a general basic question of what would you do in this situation, I can at least provide my perspective of what I would personally do or what I've actually already done. Then let's think about relationships. Strengthening existing relationships. That's really important, especially for me. People know I'm an entrepreneur, and I spend a lot of time trying to build my business, but I'm doing my absolute best to actually spend quality time with my family, because you only get to see your kid grow up once. And so how do I do that? Well, I try to make sure that, one, I'm physically present when I'm there. So I may not actually be next to my kid the full 14 hours that he's up or whatever it might be. But when I am there, I try to not have my phone near me, try to not have the TV on. I try to actually just roll around on the floor and be there with him to play. If you're not at that family stage yet, have a kid and a wife, but you still want to have like relationships, you could do like a 2-for-1, like join a running club, and you can get that fitness in. You can run those 3 or 5 miles, whatever it might be, but it generally ends at a brewery. And so there's a way that you can actually get some health and fitness in while at the same time meeting new people that have similar kind of healthy habits. Like at least they're running 3 to 5 miles before they chug some beer. And then organization and productivity. I got to love that woman, Marie Kondo, right? Helping you declutter, thank your clothes right before you throw them out or give them away. But it's a really good way to make things a lot simpler, and less clutter means a less cluttered mind, meaning you're more productive. And then finally, there's a few ones that I'll kick around really quickly, like environment and responsibility. More millennials and Gen Zs are interested in that versus Gen X and boomers. But if you're trying to be more environmentally responsible, you can try to reduce, reuse, recycle. The one that I like, of course, I try to do all of those things. But a trick that I've done, you can do a triple. It's not a 2 for a 3 for whatever the hell you call this. Take a cold shower in the morning. It's good for your physical health. That's one, because it helps with your recovery. It's good for your mental health because I tell you what, a cold shower is not very comfortable. But if you can take a 5-minute cold shower, you can mentally overcome a lot of more barriers that are going to be thrown your way. And then 3, a cold shower is a lot more energy efficient than a warm shower because you're not having to heat up the water. So do that. Let me know what you think about it. It's a great way to be sustainable in your life while also helping those other areas that I was touching on. Giving back and volunteering is another goal. But if you're like penny pinched, don't worry. You don't have to necessarily focus on charitable organizations. From a money standpoint, you could donate your time, or here's a really simple one. It doesn't have to even be charity. Just give somebody a compliment. That's charitable. And so walking down the street, if somebody has a cool hat that you're like, just compliment them. Or if you're driving, especially here in Boston, where we all hate each other when we drive, maybe actually let that person in instead of getting road rage. So that's what I'm talking about, just more charitable type things. Others, travel and exploration is another one. And for that one, it's just, oh man, for me as a parent with a young kid, I never want to get on a plane again. Not until at least he will stop screaming. But one thing that you could do is, if you like nature, your kid generally likes nature, they at least like getting outside of the house, so they're not going to scream as much. So maybe find like local wildlife conservation areas and get their yearly membership. And it's kind of like a zoo. You get to walk around, see some various barn animals, look at nature-like things. And it also gives you that quality time or relationships. So I'm all pro tipped out. That's way too many damn things that I just threw out there, but at least wanted to share that with you. And so the final part that I'll just kind of end with, and I always end this with my newsletters, is stupid dad jokes. And I try to write 3 of them a week. So let me know how these kind of roll off here, as I'm sure they're going to be terrible. They're all New Year's themes for this one because, hey, we're still in January, so I'm celebrating New Year's. They say New York City has the best New Year's celebration, but I say it's overrated. Every year, they drop the ball. Yeah, so that's my first one. All right. Let me find this next one I got. Some astronauts wanted to have a New Year's party. So some astronauts wanted to have a New Year's party on the moon, but they didn't plan it in time. And finally, my final stupid joke. Not to brag, but I already have a date for New Year's Eve. It's December 31st. Damn, crushed it. Alrighty, well, hey, everybody, that is this week's 5 top stories, 3 social posts, weekly blog, and the 3 stupid dad jokes. And so please, please, please let me know how I can help you in the future. You can just message me back here, and I'll get in touch with you. Take care. Bye.